Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. Now we have somebody in the building from the mayor's office, and I'm glad you're here because I actually want to get an abatement on my taxes. Can you help me with that?
An abatement?
No, you can help me with that?
No, not exactly.
All right. Well, we have Takeesha White in the building. She is here for Mental Health Awareness Month.
And you know I love that. I'm a very big proponent of mental health, going to therapy and all of that good stuff.
Yes, I listened to your Shaquan audiobook.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
audiobook.
that.
Yeah, it's really good.
Now,
It's great to hear your
office?
voice. Yeah.
Now, tell us what you do.
Well, so technically, I'm from the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
So I work in the Center for Health Equity, and our work is rooted in undoing racism. So we center and name racism as a root cause for health outcomes, particularly poor health outcomes. And this is critical, right? Because oftentimes health outcomes are directly connected to behavioral, patterns and the individual, and they pathologize the individual. But the Center for Health Equity really helps to expand the conversation in general and change the narrative so that folks understand that it's really racism and the structures and systems that are used to perpetuate it that really create the environments that force people most of the time to have fewer opportunities and in result have poor health outcomes.
Well, what is mental hygiene exactly?
So mental hygiene is a broad term, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you hear it and you're like, wait a minute, that's not mental health. We're saying something different. Mm-hmm. Mental hygiene really covers everything in the spectrum of the brain. So when folks talk about mental health, they're generally talking about emotional well-being. When folks talk about mental hygiene, they're talking about developmental disabilities, maybe neurological disabilities or changes, something that might have happened at birth, so being born with half a brain or something like that. It could also be including substance misuse or substance use. So it's a very all-encompassing term. And the Division of Mental Hygiene actually adopted that title because they wanted to really be inclusive when they're talking about mental health across the spectrum. And they're talking about all the things that impact the mind. So that's mental hygiene.
I love it because it reminds me of DG Yola. Remember DG Yola? Remember that song, Ain't Gonna Let Up? When he said, go get your shit together. Go give your brain a bath. Go to church. Start listening. Get on the right path. You never heard that?
No.
Man, you ain't never been down south. I ain't gonna never let them haters get to me.
Oh,
you never heard DG Yola? I just don't give a fuck. Oh, man, y'all bugging. That's a classic. Classic down south record.
No.
Did you hear that on the small bus on your way to school? Like, where did you buy that? I don't know.
You just out of the loop, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Now, what are some of the stigmas still that exist in the urban community when it comes to mental health?
I mean, I think most of them are not necessarily what we normally call stigmas. They're generally just protective and coping mechanisms that the Black community has for themselves.
The mic.
So, folks will call it stigma, but I really say that folks are just aware of the institutional harm that a lot of Black people have experienced in this country, both recorded and documented and not documented, undocumented. And so we call it stigma, but I believe it's really a protective factor. I think we are trying to make sure that we don't have more of our Black men and Black women disappeared or hurt in the system, that we don't want to have more of our children pipelined into particular programs or into prison or into any other kind of like behavioral authority or authoritative processes. And I think that's why people consider it stigma, but I really look at it as the heart of Black people continuing to survive.
I wanted to ask, I love the conversation about mental health. I think it actually helps me as a better person, even when raising my kids. I think about what I say before I say it because I think about how it could affect them in the long term. But I also feel like it's a scapegoat for a lot of people that don't take it serious, that just say, kind of like I use the same example, like, when a kid is acting up, they're like, oh, he has ADD, and the kid might not have ADD. Little kid might not just listen. I feel like with mental health sometimes too, it's like it's an easy scapegoat for somebody to say, oh, he's mentally ill or I'm mentally ill or whatever it may be.
I mean, I think it's oftentimes an easy scapegoat for white people who have committed murders. I don't think it's generally an easy scapegoat unless there is an agenda behind it. For us, like oftentimes people consider it like part of the culture to make jokes and like always be getting on people, and that's natural, in the family to like do that kind of thing. But a lot of Black people do not want their child labeled with having ADD or ADHD, and so I wouldn't say that that's really necessarily a natural scapegoat. I would say that it might be a part of a different type of an agenda.
And by the way, that's part of stigma too, though. Like when people commit a crime or murder, even if they're white, and they claim that they're crazy, and everybody's like, "Oh, he just playing crazy." No, he could have snapped. He could have been dealing with some mental health issues all the time and could have snapped. It's possible.
It is possible. A psychotic episode. It is possible.
So what can we do? What should we be doing other than having the conversation?
And what is the city doing too?
So the city is, particularly the Department of Health, has really invested in expanding behavioral health services at the neighborhood health action centers, right? So we don't just look at behavioral health in the context of the biomedical model, but we look at it from a public health approach. So all the kind of social determinants of health, that's housing, access to food, access to education, access to support, access to physical activity or active transportation. So we really think about these things in that context. And so we have a new behavioral health team. We also have friendship benches, which is an amazing program that really works on the ground where we have peers. So that's individuals with lived experience. I like to call them like the X-Men, folks who have triumphed really like the hardest, most aggressive experiences in their lives, from addiction to incarceration to homelessness, and have come out on the other side having been able to give back, having been able to restore their minds. And this program puts those type of people who can relate, who know the language, who understand what's going on, in the community right there on the corner at the community health fairs, at events, and then they interact with everyday New Yorkers. And when they interact with those New Yorkers, they can tell, like, how you doing? Are you okay? How's everything at home? Or they can even tell, like, hey, are you coming back? Like, did you just use? Are you in need of any support? And we have seen such success with that program. We've seen thousands of people get connected to care. We've seen, folks go straight from the benches to medical support. We've seen them also interrupt suicides. We have some powerful leaders. One of them's name is Skip, and the other one is Steven. Just powerful people who are in their 50s and have not given up. And they know that if they had support like the friendship benches, they probably would not have had to go through the types of things that they went through. And so, we use our assets. We use the neighborhood health action centers. We use our relationships with our city agencies, and we make sure that folks have access to care. So, for example, the Brownsville Rapid Response Coalition that just kind of formed as a result to the mass shooting that happened in Brownsville recently, they have been connected with our behavioral health team. We're supporting them in creating healing circles. We're supporting them in being able to really deal with the pain and the grief that they're experiencing right now. And now they're even looking to create town halls and conversations where more and more people can get connected to the support that they're going to need. So, that's what we're doing.
Now, how can people get up with you if they need to get up with you or get more information?
They can find me at NYC Healthy. At NYC Healthy is the New York City Department of Health. Or they can follow us at hashtag NYC Health Equity if they really want to see what's happening particularly around the communities of Brownsville, Bed-Stuy, South Bronx, Tremont, and East Harlem.
And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Good word.
Appreciate you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Takeesha White. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.